Well, so welcome back. You're watching Checkpoint. The hashtag that is currently trending, running empty. A story there, very insightful by our investigative editor Hussein Mohammed on how water cartels are taking advantage of those living, especially in the informal settlements. And this has opened up a wider conversation on the water situation in the city. Joining me in studio now is Engineer Nahashan Muguna, Acting Managing Director of the Nairobi City Water and Storage Company. And before we get to that, quickly, let me just read one or two tweets because there's a lot of feedback we're already getting from that story that we just ran. We have someone who says here, David Mbithi says, Nairobi is a city of inequality. We residents of Nyayo Hira's estate scramble to fill our storage containers once a week, that's every Sunday, and failure to which we incur a cost of 50 shillings per 20-litre jerrycan. Major Wagitugi says, or Major Mwangi says, most landlords are always working in cahoots with these water cartels. And we also have Jack Nunda, who says, in an area we live, there's never been running council water for the last 7 years that I've been here. Sad, depending on water vendors selling dirty water from unlicensed sources. And finally, just before we get into the conversation, we have Lynn, who says, in Simba Villa, we need to understand why our taps are almost always empty, especially during school holidays. Just to give you a picture of some of the concerns that Kenyans online have, you can still continue tweeting us at Kisa Wandera, at KTN News KE, at KTN Kenya. The hashtag to use is running empty. Engineer Nahashan Muguna, thank you very much for coming into studio and just helping us put into perspective some of these issues. We've seen that report there by Hussein Mohammed. Maybe your initial reaction, what are your thoughts about that piece?
Now, thank you so much for inviting me into this studio or newsroom. What the Nairobians needs to understand is Nairobi water supply demand is 790,000 cubic meters per day. The installed production capacity is 525,000 cubic meters per day. This installed production capacity was done 1997, and that water supply production was supposed to serve the population of Nairobi of the year 2000.
Yes.
Now, after that, there were other programs which were supposed to come online to give more water to the city, but this has not happened for the last 20 years. So, out of that, we are forced to ration water in the city. We have a program we call Equitable Distribution Program, which is in our website. And you can access and know the day you are supposed to have water. Of course, it's true what one of the customers has said that some areas they get water 12 hours or 24 hours, other areas get 48 hours, and some get even 72 hours, depending on the way you live in the city. Now, the way the water comes to the city, the water comes from 4 sources. We have one of the sources, water comes from Gikuyu, that's the oldest source, which gives us 4,000 cubic meters per day. Then we have another source, which is called Ruiro Dam. That's water comes from Kidongori area. Then it comes to a better waterworks where it's treated. It gives us 20,600 cubic meters. Then we have the third one, which was done back in the 50s, called Sasmua. Water is treated as Sasmua. Then again, it's brought to the city where it lands at Kabeto Waterworks. It has a production capacity of 60,000 cubic meters. When when that water comes there, it is distributed to the west of Uru Highway areas. Then we have the biggest source of water, which has been developed over various years, from 1974 to 1997, Thika Dam, Nyedu Ngigiri system, which produces around 84%. That water lands at United Nations Gigiri area, and that is the water which serves CBD and most of Eastlands. Now, we are purposed to give...
Before you just get to that, this, in essence, you're saying really there is a big problem as far as water supply in Nairobi is concerned.
The demand is higher than the supply by 250 to 70,000 cubic meters per day. And notwithstanding that, we also serve outlying counties like Machakos. We actually give water to Epicent. We give water to Kiambu town and all the towns in Kiambu. We give them water. So the water which comes to the city is shared around with other counties besides the city.
All right. The major issue that's coming out of this particular report there by Hussein Mohammed is especially one, contamination of water, even from the Nairobi water pipes, as well as Kenyans are now extremely stretched. They are forced to now depend on water vendors who, of course, have drilled boreholes in various areas, and even them, they're selling them contaminated water. Kayole, case in point.
Now, thank you so much.
Yes.
Nairobi water, water from Nairobi water pipelines is not contaminated. It is potable water. That's why you find in all WHO maps, where in a city you go, you are never told not to take water from the pipes in Nairobi. But the way the water is handled can be contaminated. When we come to bowls, Nairobi water does not give people water from bowls.
Of course.
Because water in the bowls, most of it in Nairobi, the fluoride level is very high. It's not potable water. So we don't give that water to the people. When you see Nairobi water as drilled in a bowl, we actually put a board there saying that water is not potable, it's not for drinking. It may be for other uses to augment the potable water, so that what you are using as potable water, you don't use it for cleaning your houses, washing your clothes, and the like. Fluoride levels of water, particularly in Eastlands, goes all the way to 15 milligrams per liter of fluoride. So the water is not potable. That's why sometimes it forms when you boil it.
The water from Nairobi City County
is clean.
Is clean.
Yes.
But then you mentioned that it can be contaminated depending on how you handle it. Talk to us about that. What does that mean?
Now, where you live, if your pipe network, that's the pipe which is giving you water to your house, maybe it's evaporated, and then during the rationing period, the pressure goes down below the atmospheric pressure, then the atmospheric pressure pushes contaminated water if the drainages are not working on the pipes unless the drainage areas. So that can cause contamination, but it's not supposed to happen like that.
Whose fault is that when we encounter situations like this where, you know, the pipes sometimes are intertwined with the sewerage lines? From some of the comments we're getting here, people are worried that the water they're taking is what is ensuring they're constantly in and out of hospitals. Is this something you're aware about as the MD?
We are not aware because we have endeavored to ensure the informal settlements of the city gets water the way they should be getting water. Take an example, Mukuru, Madare, Kibera, we give them water 4 days in a week, and they are comfortable with that. At least we can be able to give them water to use. Madare, we give them 24/7 based on the way they are. Mukuru, we strive to give them 3 to 4 days in a week. The problem is how to store their water because they don't have space to store the water. So what can resolve problems of water supply in the city is development of new sources. Okay? Because you can see we are behind by 20 years. The water we are using was supposed to serve the population of the city up to the year 2000. So we need to develop new water sources. This one is being done by the national government in collaboration with the county government. There is another northern collector tunnel, which is around 80% complete. It's supposed to be completed by next year, December. And when it's complete, it will bring 140,000 cubic meters of water to the city. That will reduce the gap of supply and demand. Of course, there is Kalimeno Dam, which is going on, construction is going on. It will give Nairobi 23,000 cubic meters per day, and 47,000 cubic meters of water will be used in Kiambu. So we are going to unhook Kiambu towns, or Kiambu town and other satellite towns in Kiambu from our system, so that we can be able to realize another 30,000 cubic meters per day from that system. So in total, by the end of next year, we will realize 23 plus 30, that's 73 plus 140. We will realize around 200,000 cubic meters of water to the city by the end of next year.
From where you sit, you mentioned that we are 20 or more years
We are
behind,
20 years behind
in terms of basic infrastructure for water, especially for the city. What have we been doing wrong? Why wait 20 years to take up such actions? Is someone sleeping on their job? Why do we wait until there's a ballooning population in the city? And now they're scrambling for the little resource of water that's there for us to decide to do something. What happened along the way?
So thank you so much. The programs which are taking place actually were supposed to be funded from 1998 to 2010. But you can remember from 1997 to around 2004, the country was experiencing a lot of problems from the Britain-owned institutions. They were not giving any money to the country because of other political issues. When it opened up, that's after 2004, what was of importance about that particular time was to do reinforcement of sewers, because sewers had drained for a long time before they were developed. And Blitro was done. Then now the Northern Collector has started being done. So not that anybody slept on the job, it's because most of these investments are heavy to be done. Actually, to bridge the gap of water supply and demand in the city, you need around 68 billion shillings. Then you will be able to bridge the gap by the year 2026, according to the construction period of such mega projects.
One would expect that because water is a basic human right, it would be a top priority for any government whatsoever. Water, food, shelter. I mean, the basic rights for any human being. Are you then saying that we're a little bit more dependent on donors and partnerships from foreign bodies?
You see major projects, major infrastructures in developing countries, you must get bilateral loans to do that development. Then you can pay slowly over a period of 30 to 40 years. So water is not unique to that. Even loans, that's the way they are being developed. And even the ones which are being developed, the water sources, they're being done on the same scenario. So it's not unique, because the economy cannot be able to give you a lapse or a sudden amount of money required to do major infrastructures.
Before we get into, yes.
So it's just the normal way of financing major infrastructures.
Before we get into some of the questions that are being posed for you, both on social media and on our text lines, two things also came up from that report that Hussein Mohammed did there. One, the issue of rationing, and two, the issue that you've just mentioned here on the pressure, atmospheric pressure that of course affects a number of issues, a number of things from before the water gets to its final destination. Some, and even from the questions of sin, some seem to think that there are disparities, that why do we only see such challenges, especially in the informal settlements? They wonder, does this happen in high-end areas?
Well, that's a very good question. Actually, areas like Karen get water less than 6 hours in a week. Areas like Riman, likewise, they get 6 hours in a week. So the problem we are having of water supply is not for the poor and the rich, it's for the whole city. What we have purposed to do is to ensure major security installations have water 24/7, universities have water 24/7, CBD has water 24/7 because of their strategic nature in the economy of this country. Jomo Kenyatta Airport gets water 24/7, and all major hospitals. If you went to Kenyatta Hospital, if you went to Mbagathi Hospital, Memorial, Aga Khan, MP Shah, Pumwan Maternity Hospital, they get water 24/7, and we have purposed to ensure those institutions have water 24/7. All the barracks have water 24/7.
David Ngurenganga asks, water cartels are very active and well protected in Langata. What makes it impossible for Nairobi Water to supply water to estates like Sun Valley, KMN, NHC? And of course, let's tie it to workers or staff members of the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company are being accused of deliberately diverting, water because they own these water bowsers and they need this business. Is this something you've heard of, that your staff are involved in these cartels?
What I can assure the people of Nairobi, and our customers in general. There is no cartel from the staff. And if anybody has information of anybody who owes, a staff who owes a water tanker, he should report to the DCI or to anti-corruption. Why is he keeping that information himself? He should surrender it to the investigative arms of the government. Then the law can take its course. What is there in Langata is, Langata areas like San Valley and KMA, their elevations are quite high compared to the source of water to that area. Those areas were not supposed to be inhabited, in short. In fact, many of them, even they are not yet designated as forest, although people live there, although people are located land. So when the city planning was being done, nobody expected people to live in that area. So when you compare the elevation of Kabete, where the water comes from, and the San Valley areas of KMA and those other areas around there, the levels are almost the same. And you know water finds its own level. If the levels are low in Kabete, water cannot reach that area. That's common sense from the physics they did in school.
I'll ask the final question from someone here.
So
yes.
In those areas, what we are doing, there is a pipeline being laid from Kabete to Karen so that we can serve them from the upper side. Then we gravitate the water.
Okay.
That pipeline will be operational by end of next year.
Final question, sir. Kayole Matopeni, a project that never saw us get water, was done and the contractor left the site. People were metered, but no water and are now forced, there's no water and they're now forced to pay for sewerage and water services. This is an informal sector where we are at the mercies of water vendors and somebody pocketed the money. What is all this, he asks?
Now, Kayole area, the area he is mentioning,
Matopeni
area,
yeah.
They get water actually today on Sundays. And if they are not getting, we'll investigate and find out why they are not getting. And I don't know why somebody cannot walk to our office at Kayole office, Sujamo, and report such a problem. Because they are supposed to get water once in a week on Sunday. So I'll take the particulars from you, then I'll call the customer, then we know whether he's the only one affected. By the way, many areas, even Kayole, they get water.
Do you ever see an end to this rationing problem, contamination of water issue in Nairobi?
Yeah, the end is coming. Just the way I've told you, when the northern collector is complete, Kalimeno Dam is completed, this problem will go to a minimum because we'll have around 90% of the water to meet the demand. And when Maragua Dam, which is in the process of procurement, is done by 2023, then the water problem will balance supply and demand. It actually will meet supply and demand by 2023.
Okay.
If the programs the national government has put in place, they move as planned.
All right.
By 2023, we'll have adequate water for the people of Nairobi.
Thank you very
there will
much,
be another dam called Ndarugo Dam, which will be coming now to push the supply ahead of the demand up to 2029. Then there will be the Northern Collector Phase 2 to push the demand higher than to push the supply higher than the demand up to 2035.
Thank you very much, Engineer Muguna, for making time for us here. There's a lot of questions coming in. I'd be able to share with you some of the complaints that Kenyans are having in various areas in Nairobi, but for now we end it at that point. Thank you for joining us here on Checkpoint. Engineer Nahashin Muguna is Acting Managing Director, Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company, responding to some of your queries here. This is a conversation we'll keep going, and of course emanating from that report by our investigative editor, Hussein Mohammed. The hashtag to continue using is running empty. Would love to hear your water experiences here in the city. But for now, all eyes are on President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga as the country awaits release of the now famous Building Bridges report following the elapse of the tenure of BBI task force constituted by the two leaders after their March 2018 handshake. But what should Kenyans look forward to in the highly anticipated BBI report, and what options do President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga have to actualize the report amid the raging rebellion from a section of the political class? Mrimi Mwangi interrogates on this week's episode of House of Cards.